Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist, video discussion number 25 on the TV series MASH. Now, might seem like it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but I was going through trying to find something interesting to watch because a lot of stuff that's out nowadays is a little weird or not good or whatever. So I've been watching MASH over the past month, I would say, and realized that there's kind of an opportunity, and it's actually something that's going to start happening more frequently, is to go through and use our archetypal leadership model and then take that and take whatever subject, whatever person we're looking at, and apply them to the model to see where they fall out. Okay? So we've done this before. I know this chart's a problem, and I'm going to fix it. I just don't know how to fix it better. So as we've talked about before, for those of you that have been members with the channel, so here's the things that compose the people that are leaders. So people that you would voluntarily follow have, and this is something that's going to have to be researched, which is another thing we're going to work on. So openness to experience, high and positive emotion, high intellect, assertiveness, and industrious. Those are the personality traits we're looking for in somebody that's a leader. Then they have to have the talent, and the talent is the ability to attune competence and environmental hierarchies in pursuit of a goal. So here's the goal, here's the team, here's the environment. Let me make all that, put all that together in a soup and make something happen. The environment changes, you got to change the people. Goal has to stay the same, but that's what you do. And then there's the characteristics, which are at the beginning of the thing. So humility, integrity, empathy, and vigilance. And then there's the four categories of leaders. So there's the barely known, there's the leader that's loved and praised, the one that's feared, and the one that's despised. And those are from the Tao Te Ching. And you've got the Army Field Manual from 1983 says, here's the four leadership types. Then you got a General Field Marshal from the 1800s, here's the four leader types. And then we've got our archetypal model, which basically it's those four types. So again, none of this is mine. Everything that I'm referring to here is from the past. What we have to do now is realize that this is what it is. This is the method. And so we're going to progress through looking at the slide. So let's do a little quick analysis. Now, for those of you that have watched MASH, it's a good series. It's a comedy. It's got some serious moments. It's got some funny moments. It's from the 70s and the early 80s. So some of the subjects are kind of funny. A couple of the people in there are kind of lecherous and whatever, but I don't think it's that terrible. Anyway, the first commander of the MASH that we meet is a guy named Colonel Henry Blake, who's a surgeon and all the other things. However, if you watch the way that he behaves in the show, and I say, again, we're always going to talk about the show. The thing that he is always doing is he just kind of doesn't want to make decisions. He only really makes decisions when he's been forced and pressured to, when somebody's yelled at him enough that he has to do something. He doesn't really like to put himself out there in any sort of a confrontational way. He wants other people to deal with things, but everybody loves him. He's funny. He's a good surgeon. So he's a surgeon and he's also the guy. And so that's Colonel Blake, which is fine, right? Nothing wrong with him. He's just not a leader. He, like I said, he's always kind of letting things happen and only does stuff when he's absolutely forced to do it. So he doesn't really care about the environment. He doesn't really care about the people. He just wants peace, right? So then there's Frank Burns, which is everybody's favorite. So Frank Burns is another guy that's a surgeon. And the thing about Frank Burns is he's everybody picks on him for not being a great surgeon, but still you have to be a surgeon, right? Not a great surgeon, but he is consistently yelling about the rules. He's consistently going on about regulations. Any chance he has to put the hammer down and go hyper-disciplinarian, he's the guy. He's the one that does that. And nobody likes him at all, right? So when Colonel Blake leaves the MASH at the end of his tour, Major Burns is put in charge. Now, another thing that's interesting about Major Burns is that he desperately wants power. And what have we said from our episode on power? Whoever wants power should be the person that should not get it, because he's already got plans about how he's going to crush everybody's soul. He's going to ruin their spirit. He's going to drive them into the ground. He's going to make things ship-shape, blah, 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 right? Now, being in the military, being anywhere, there may be a time and a place for that. But is that your default method? Anyway, so he's the substitute or temporary fill-in commander for 3 or 4 episodes. And everybody hates him. Everybody hates it because he's doing a bunch of stuff that makes no sense. He's doing a bunch of army stuff, even though they're really a surgical hospital and all they do is deal with wounded people. And so everybody despises him because he's the absolute wrong person to have any power. The problem is he thinks he's amazing. So what does that tell you about his personality, right? I mean, his personality, but his character. So then there's another officer, Benjamin Pierce. So he's the chief surgeon. He hates the army. He hates discipline. He hates law and order. He hates everything. There's an episode where he gets put in charge. Now, here's the thing that's different between Pierce and Burns. Burns desperately wants power. Pierce desperately doesn't want power. He knows that he can't make the good decisions. He knows he's not the right person to have that sort of authority. And he makes some bad decisions and does some silly stuff when he has power. But the difference between, like I said, him and Burns is that he knew that was going to happen. He said, I'm the least likely person to do this. You should not let me do this thing. So then the officer that comes in and takes over is a guy named Colonel Potter. Now, Colonel Potter in the show, veteran of World War I, World War II, and now he's in the Korean War. So old, wise, whatever, got lots of experience. He comes in and immediately does what we say a leader should do. So he looks at the environment, says, here's some tweaks that we might need to make. Here's the people I've got. Let me take care of the people. And so he's constantly with vigilance, right? He's constantly got a barometer. He's constantly got his finger on what's going on in the organization. So if something's not quite right, he feels it. He goes and does stuff. Once in a while, he goes and drops the hammer on people and starts yelling and screaming. There's other times where he's super soft, right? He's super, super delicate. So what does that tell you, right? So if we look at their characteristics, right, let's measure them all. Actually, we'll just do this on the next slide. So this is my first whack. I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is the model, right? So the one thing that the Tao Te Ching got incorrectly, in my estimation, or maybe, like I said, I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong. Is there's the 4 types: barely known, loved, praised, feared. My contention is that the leader that is barely known or feared has the talent to get people to do stuff. Their character modifies that talent. And so the one that's feared, the reason you fear the person that's a leader who has bad character is that they'll use that power for evil, right? They'll actually go out and manipulate and get the people to go out and do bad things because they have low humility, low empathy, low vigilance. The person that's got good character and the talent is going to try to do the best things for people. Now, you get somebody that doesn't have the talent, who's loved and praised and respected. That's a person in charge, because they're not really a leader. They just happen to be in charge, and they're not messing things up because they're a good person. However, you get somebody that has bad character and no talent, and then they're going to be the worst thing possible because they're going to try to do all these terrible things. They're going to try to wield their power and yada, yada, yada. So let's place them down here. So when we talk about the character, that's the 4 characteristics. So Colonel Blake. So he's a person in charge, right? He's just in charge. And you get that feeling watching the episode. He's got good character. I mean, he drinks a little bit too much and he chases women. Oh, yeah. That's the theme of the show. Go watch the show. But doesn't really have a talent. When something's messed up, I don't know, he throws his hands up. Somebody just do something. Somebody just make something happen. But he knows if things are inherently wrong, and he tries to sort of tweak things, but he's not a great leader. He's a good person. He's a good surgeon. He's got technical competency when it comes to the surgical part. Shouldn't really be in charge of troops, right? Maybe he could run the hospital. I don't know. But that's Colonel Blake. So he is in this category. So the loved and praised. People loved him. People said he was a good dude. But would they have followed him if things, if the poop hit the fan? No. So the next, we do the same thing with Pierce. So when Pierce was in charge, same deal. People loved him. People respect him. He's a little bit of he's chasing skirts and stuff like that too. Watch the show. But the difference between him and somebody else is that he's a good person, knows that he doesn't have the talent, knows that he doesn't have anything to do with the Army, understands that he's not going to be the right person to do these sort of things, makes sound medical decisions, but when he's in charge and has to do paperwork and has to do all these other things, he's a mess. So you can't fault him for that. He should have never been put in charge, right? So that, again, just because it's a good person doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be in charge, right? Good person seems like they're pretty smart. I worked with a guy once when I was in Hawaii. Nicest guy possible. I would not have followed him out the door to get water because he just wasn't that sort of person. But he was a good dude, right? But just you kind of knew that if things got a little dicey, he was not going to make the right decision. So then there's despised. So bad character, no talent. So power mad, wanting desperately to go and wield power against people and punish them and enforce every minuscule rule that could possibly be enforced. And then also had no sense of people. So he had no empathy, he had no vigilance, he had no humility, absolutely none of that. So he falls into the despised thing. And then we've got Colonel Potter, and Colonel Potter, although it's a TV show, so he's known, but he's kind of doing things behind the scenes. He's kind of tweaking stuff. He's always, if you watch, he's forceful here. He's not here. I mean, the writing was amazing. Whoever did the writing in this, unbelievable. So was there anybody in there that was feared? Well, not really, not in the show, because a lot of times it's hard to write. I mean, a great person that would be feared because they had the talent to lead and bad character would be Khan from Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. Because that's somebody that had the talent and did bad things, right? So this is the way you can look at it, right? If somebody's a good person, but nobody would follow them, loved and praised, they're a person in charge. They're not a leader. So stop using that word. And then the person that's despised. So the thing that's worse, though, is that everybody knew this about Frank Burns. Everybody knew this about Burns, and they put him in charge anyway. We see this happen all the time, and it's asinine. If you know that they're going to be a terrible person when they have power, don't give them power. I don't care what the system says. I don't care what the rules are. I don't care, It's just the worst. Anyway, so I'm going to work on this chart some more. This is going to get, I'm trying to make it into something so that we can do evaluating somebody as a leader and then a way to evaluate an organization to see if they've got leadership in charge or see what the environment's like. So there's going to be a couple of charts. I can't figure out the right way to do it right now. I'm going to keep working on it. Anyway, look out for the next few episodes. Got 3 more episodes, and then I'm kind of doing a major shift in the way the channel's going to work. I think it's going to be useful. Anyway, as always, thank you for your time and attention, and I really appreciate the fact that you put your eyeballs on this, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.